I was speaking at this one event, and you know, this girl asked me, "Is the glass half full or half empty?" And I'm like, well, that's an easy one because everyone tells me to say it's half full because I want to be an optimist, right? And then I was speaking, and then I stopped, and I told her that was the wrong answer. That was something that somebody told me to say.
Yeah.
How I feel right now is if you get a smaller glass, it'd be oozing out with joy. It's called right sizing. Right.
Oh, I
That's
like
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
I've actually never heard anyone say that.
Yeah,
It's
thanks.
fantastic.
It saved my life. I came home.
Wow.
I sold all 15 cars in like 4 days. I lost $1 million in cars in 4 days, but I didn't care. And I sold my big house, sold everything, and just started from scratch. And I was making, good money and everything else, but I just couldn't live with that emptiness because
because it was all there to try and fill a void. Right?
I was trying to fill the hole in my heart.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with things. You need to do that with love, right?
I'm Design Muse,
And I'm Fast Lane Jane.
and we are here with High Octane Hustle. And today we have Myles Kovacs.
I'm Myles Kovacs.
That's him,
Yes.
right there, right there. Co-founder of Dove Magazine. You have a TED Talk. You've been on TV as a secret millionaire. You've had energy drinks named after you. Dove Magazine, all kinds of things, right?
Thanks.
I mean,
I've been blessed. I've been so blessed, and
the list goes on.
Yeah. I mean, being in this industry, an automotive aftermarket for more than 30 years, and just you have a lot of different experiences. But I think since I was a street kid from East Los Angeles, I'm scrappy, but also I didn't know the limits, right? So I was born with, if I could dream it, I could make it, right?
So, and where did that come from? Did that come from like your parents or just being on the streets? Did you have to fend for yourself? Like,
I think it came from trauma, all the above, you know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been writing a book for a while, and I have a whole story about that.
love
but,
it. Okay. So
I
you heard it
realized
here. You got to get the book.
I realized that I'd never seen my parents hold hands, hug, or kiss in my life, right?
Yeah.
So I missed that.
Yeah.
So sorry to my wife and all the girls that I dated, because guess what? I wasn't emotionally available.
You didn't, yeah.
I didn't
you didn't even
exist.
know.
I
You didn't understand.
I didn't even
it
know
was
how
a
to
thing.
feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then with all the trauma
weren't
and all
given
that
that.
stuff, I was blocking. So, just kind of using that. But going back to the business, I was angry.
Yeah.
And I use anger to propel myself.
Sure. And a lot of people do.
And it works.
Yeah.
It works.
does, yeah.
Until it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, you can get so high, but emotionally you don't feel fulfilled. And I think that's what you mean by it doesn't.
Well, no, until your mind starts working against you.
Yeah.
Because when your mind's aligned with you and you think it is, things go great. But when you feel like your mind's kind of turning against you, that's when it's a different thing. And that happens with age. I think at a certain age, I just started going like, holy crap.
So
like, this is different,
Yeah. So was there a moment? It sounds like you had a moment of where you saw that crossover happen.
I mean, it happened since I was young, a lot of trauma. I have eye disease in both eyes called keratoconus. I've been blind 3 times in my left eye. I'm going for another surgery in 2 weeks. So it's like I tell people, since God took my sight, he gave me vision, right? And that's just it. So whatever disabilities, whatever negative things that happen to us, it creates extraordinary abilities. It creates that survival mode, right? So I've been through so much. My survival mode is beast mode, right? Because of that. But at a certain point, that beast mode becomes, that kind of driving force against you, and then the trauma brings it out to where it's like, you don't feel good enough. So my whole life I felt not good enough. I had to prove myself to everybody, buy 15 cars, Lambos and everything, and have a 9-bedroom house. And, it was just me, my daughter, my son and my wife. We used probably 1,500 square feet of almost a 9,000 square foot house, right? I mean, and if you know feng shui, guess what? Anything that's empty, right, creates negativity. So I had all this demonic energy in my big old house, right?
Oh, yeah.
And guess what? It was just, taking me to really dark places. It was never me, We sit there with our thoughts and we go, why am I thinking like this?
Yep.
It's not your thought. That thought's put in there.
Yep.
by the negative forces, right?
Yeah.
It's like Star
Yeah.
Wars, you know?
Yeah. Oh no, that's a real thing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the reason. There's the dark side.
I'm your father,
We
right?
all
You know
have
what I
a
mean?
dark side.
Yeah.
I don't think people understand that there's another side to that too. In finding the light, right?
Yes.
And understanding what that is,
Yes.
because we all have the dark side talking to us all the time.
Yes.
It's understanding what that other side is and getting there.
So I have something that I learned through that. And it was like, you know, I used to tell people, I feel like I have the devil on one shoulder
Yeah.
and then, you know, God on the other.
Yeah,
And I'm
totally.
just getting pulled apart.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it one time. I said, well, that's not true, because God doesn't pull, he guides. So it's the negativity, the devil trying to confuse us. So all we have to do is actually look for the guidance, and it's there. Right?
God gave us choice.
The confusion.
And that's what people don't understand is we have a choice.
Yes.
And it's up to us to make that choice.
Yeah, but the thing is, if we're focused on or hyper focused
Totally.
on the pulling and the pushing,
Yeah.
it's driving confusion. So the negativity tries to confuse us every day, so we could, you know, basically bow down to it, right,
Yeah.
and just let it take over. You know, and a lot of people are manifesting that negativity by thoughts and feelings and, you know, just animosity. But a lot of that is deep rooted from trauma.
Yeah.
You know, so trauma is basically the root of the issue, like a sickness, a virus.
Yeah.
And then the symptoms are, you know, like a runny nose and things like that. Most people are just medicating the symptoms. They're not going deep enough, you
Yeah.
know, right? I mean,
Yeah.
no, most people don't want to.
Yeah.
And why? Because it hurts.
Yep.
But what you need to do
put
is you
those
need
walls,
to
yeah.
go so deep it hurts more than it ever has.
Yep.
So you know what that feels like, and you're okay in that moment.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with being not okay,
Yep.
right?
It's so true. And so many people are so uncomfortable with it. They just, like you said, they don't want to go there.
Yeah. And I was super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But again,
It is.
that's what helped me in my business, right? Because I was an introvert. I was just really focused, working. You know, I tell people my kind of trick is I'm working when everybody's sleeping. I put in really long hours and I stay up really late. But that's when I'm the most creative. Like I just feel like the juices are flowing, you know. But you know, each to its own, you know. But energy follows thought. If you put out a negative thought out there, it's going to turn into energy. So if you have a lot of negative thoughts, you're surrounded by negative energy. We trap ourselves every day.
I think that you were talking about way back the trauma that you felt with not seeing your parents hold hands, hug, kiss, and that was the start. How did you identify that, which we're calling trauma?
Well, you know, I think that looking back, I didn't realize it until I did. You know, you don't realize things until you realize them. You know, so I didn't have my realization until I was probably like 34, 35.
Yeah. And what was that triggered this concept or the idea of? There had to be a catalyst of some sort that led you to kind of this self-discovery. Yeah.
Well, I think it really comes back to business is booming. You know, I'm doing major deals with Anheuser-Busch, PepsiCo. I mean, just, you know, Monster Energy, all the double edition vehicles through Daimler Chrysler, you know, through Ford. We're doing all this marketing for all the big Fortune 500 companies. I mean, we're rolling, right? Yeah. At that time, I was at my darkest place. Yeah, and no one realizes it. You know, and everyone's like, oh, you know, you're so happy. Yeah. I'm like, you have no idea. I'm dying inside. You know what I'm saying? And that's really, so it got to the point where, like, you know, I've wanted to commit suicide in my life. You know, I lost my brother 3 years ago to suicide. And suicide is a disease. It's not something that just, oh, by the way, I never thought about it until I'm going to do it. Like it's something that's there, you know? So it's dealing with those thoughts and everything else and those feelings, but, you know, just feeling lost. And I was like, I need to find not only the way to get through this, just to stay alive, but I needed to find kind of what my purpose was. And I didn't know. I thought it was about making money and doing cool stuff and all of those things. Then I realized that those things were actually harming me. They were affecting me in a negative way because then I was being more superficial. I cared only what people wanted rather than what I actually needed, you know? So I was going through a lot of, you know, different breakdowns emotionally and stuff. And I was speaking at this one event and, you know, this girl asked me, is the glass half full or half empty? And I'm like, you know, well, that's an easy one because everyone tells me to say it's half full because I want to be an optimist, right? And then I was speaking, and then I stopped, and I told her that was the wrong answer. That was something that somebody told me to say.
Yeah.
How I feel right now is if you get a smaller glass, it'd be oozing out with joy. It's called right sizing. Right?
Oh, I like
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
I've actually never heard
heard
anyone
that.
say that.
Yeah,
It's
thanks.
fantastic.
It saved my life. I came home.
Wow.
I sold all 15 cars in like 4 days. I lost $1 million in cars in
Wow.
4 days, but I didn't care. And I sold my big house, sold everything, and just started from scratch. And I was making, good money and everything else, but I just couldn't live with that emptiness because
because it was all there to try and fill a void, right?
I was trying to fill the hole in my heart.
Yeah.
And you can't do that with things. You need to do that with love, right?
Yeah.
GTS Customs Corvette Specialists. Passion is the driving force behind every design, every build. Innovation taking the client's dream car places never thought possible. Not just seductive form, but flawless function, showcasing today's technology in yesterday's classic curves in luxury and in performance. Head over to highoctanehustle.com, shop the brands page, and check out GTS Customs Corvette Specialists.
Baja Forge. It isn't just the products and it's not just a brand. It's a way of life. At an early age, traveling to Baja was one of my fondest memories. It was about venturing to unknown destinations. It was the freedom of exploration and really slowing down to enjoy the amazing world and the people we have in it. Baja Forge is about helping you embrace adventure. Baja Forged, signature vehicle builds and off-road products built to forge your own path. Visit bajaforged.com today.
But I hated myself. I didn't feel like I was good enough. So I was never able to, kind of manifest the love that I really needed, but I didn't know I needed because I never felt it before.
Sure. You
right?
didn't understand what that was.
No, I mean,
You
it was
can't-
foreign.
Yeah,
You-
yeah,
you,
yeah.
You can't miss something that you don't know what it is.
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
And so that was one of those things where I went on this quest to like try to find it. And then I realized that I had to learn how to laugh at myself and love myself. And
Love
those are
that.
the two things. Because if somebody made fun of me, we're fighting, right? I mean, straight up, right?
Yeah.
I'm not that guy.
Yeah.
Like, don't, and just not being able to be vulnerable. I realized that, and I was just like, it's like being a big oak tree. You have the roots, you have that foundation. It's like, being all strong. And that's what people told me. My dad told me, like, be
bullying
tough.
that-
Oh, yeah.
Be tough.
I feel like a lot of us got that
Yeah.
growing up and stuff.
be tough.
It is.
That's
It
it.
is.
Just
That's it. Suck it up.
Yeah, suck
you
it
got
up.
this.
Yeah, be tough.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I lived my life like that.
Yeah.
And then I realized, well, I could be tough in a way that doesn't affect me, and I could be vulnerable in a way that gives me more strength.
Yeah.
So I'm strengthening my toughness, right? My intestinal fortitude.
Right.
Because that's what it is, right? It's like when you could push harder and further than most people, and then you add that vulnerable strength, that's
Yeah.
ultimate power.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I've been living since about 34. I started kind of transforming. I'm going to be 50 this year.
I was just going to ask you how old you are.
yeah. I'm going to be 50 this year. So,
That's unbelievable to me.
Thanks.
And that in that journey, I mean, you said you went to this one event or something. Like, what even started before then? Like, what triggered that? I mean, we all have a moment that it is. You have to have that dark place that you really go to, like you said, like, possibly thinking about suicide and these types of things that we think, and everyone else thinks, oh, everything's perfect, and especially these days, you have social media and things like that people have to post out there. But what's going on inside of us? Like, what got you to that moment?
well, I had a realization that the more I was vulnerable and the more I spoke about everything that transpired in my life, people would be like, that happened to me too.
They relate.
They can relate to me more and more. So I was like,
And did you
wow.
start to feel that, or?
Well, I started feeling that I was part of something.
Good.
Right. And that was that movement. I was like, wow, this is different.
Yeah.
Because dub was a huge movement
Sure.
car shows, concerts,
Oh,
the
gosh.
biggest celebrities in the world,
Oh,
Kobe
gosh.
Bryant, LeBron James. I mean, just
You were in every
Snoop Dogg,
store,
yeah.
every Walmart's, everything. You guys, it was everywhere.
I mean,
yeah,
Dub Toys,
totally.
we sold 25 million toys.
That's insane.
9.6 million
Wow.
Dub
Yeah.
Edition video games
Yeah.
with Rockstar Games.
Yeah.
Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. So, I mean,
Yeah.
we went from nothing to, a worldwide brand
yeah.
selling
Yeah.
millions and millions of products. And, it was amazing and frightening all at the same time.
Sure.
Like people think that, it was easy and this and it's like, you have no idea what happens
No.
behind the scenes
and
of anything.
I don't care how much we don't know. It doesn't matter. Unless you are doing that exact thing, you can't comprehend
Yeah,
it.
and everybody's
Yeah.
journey is differently, and
Totally.
people handle it differently.
Yeah.
So I think that by going through a lot of trauma, I've developed thick skin, right? And that's been good. But when it comes down to actually being vulnerable, it's not good. Being vulnerable with thick skin or big ego or all that stuff, you can't do it. You can't do it. So, like I'll challenge you guys and, people watching, try talking about things that you can't talk about.
Yeah.
And get good at talking about those things.
Right.
Right.
Getting
We did
uncomfortable.
that. Yeah, we
Getting
did a
uncomfortable.
little bit of that before we started. I have a big question. Actually, it's
Absolutely.
not even a question.
Yeah.
It's kind of just an observation.
Yeah.
When you have somebody who's done as much as you've experienced, what a great transition to be in a field now where you're working with people like myself or Theresa to be able to affect a change in individuals.
No, I mean, it is. And that's what I feel God put me here to do, right?
Absolutely.
So it's like whether I'm, working within the automotive aftermarket industry, fashion, music, or just whatever it is. It could be, I get hired all over the world to speak. And for me, I'm there basically to change mindsets. When I consult on businesses, I'm not there to change their business. I'm there to change everyone's mind in that business from a fixed mindset to an infinite mindset. And what I mean by that is you got to believe that you can do it. But most importantly, you got to use the tools to do it. And it starts.
And people don't know those tools.
No.
You have to help them.
But it starts here,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's why I tell people, if you want to be successful, you have to have the tools to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. And we got so good at using a screwdriver as a hammer or whatever it is. But when it comes down to that refinement, we need to have the toolbox to be able to get through all the different things and the challenges. And that toolbox is actually built through therapy.
Yep.
And nobody wants to go to therapy, right? Just like me, I was like, I'm not going to go to therapy. I'm not crazy, right? Yeah. I'm crazy, right? But in a good way. I'm good crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I use all the therapy. Therapy doesn't change the way you feel. It changes the way about the way you feel,
Yes.
right? And that's the key. And the deeper you go, the more cleansing you're getting. So you're taking that poison and putting it on the table. Do you need to go to therapy to do that? No. But most people can't just go and put all of that poison on the table themselves.
They don't know. They don't know how to.
Well, no, they don't
even
want
know,
to.
or they don't even
They-
know they have it.
No,
Sometimes.
they don't want
They
to.
don't comprehend it.
But
they
I
don't-
think-
all of these things.
Yeah,
I think
I
a lot
agree
of
with
it
all that.
has to do with the concept of change. You
Yeah.
grow comfortable with the poison that you have.
Yes.
And when you decide to give up that poison, you're like, oh, but I don't know
Yeah.
what the next poison's going to be. I feel comfortable in this space over here because I know how to deal with it.
Yes. And
Yeah,
that
so
poison's
it's a
going to
lot
be
of
there
fear.
forever.
Yeah.
You can't erase the feeling, right? It's an emotion. You
Yeah.
can't erase that. It's going to be there. But again, you could change the way you feel about it. And that's
Yeah.
really the key.
Do you think that it's just maybe something as simple as giving ourselves permission?
It's definitely, it's acknowledgement, giving us permission, but most importantly, believing that we can do it. So a lot of the trauma that I've had got me to believe I can't do it.
Okay.
Right. So it just gave me self-doubt. Still, till this day, I get self-doubt and everything else. But I learned that it's okay, to have that doubt. Now what I need to do is just push so hard that I might be starting at a disadvantage, but I'm going to go so hard that it's going to be my advantage. Right. And
Yeah.
that's the bottom line. So
It's like
my
you said,
best
the
might be
intestinal
different than most people.
fortitude.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
I learned to get faster than I get knocked down.
Right.
Because you're going to get knocked down.
Right.
Most people try not to get knocked down. I look for the opportunity to get knocked down because
I appreciate challenges. I'm
Yes.
like, bring them on.
Yes.
Because
you grow.
Because you're finding the solution, though.
Well, yeah, you grow. You
at
just
that
keep getting
point,
better. I mean,
yeah.
our life is about growth. That's it.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
until we're dead. Until there's no more growth. We just keep growing.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
the unfortunate thing is, it's like we need to be more like sponges, right? When we're babies and stuff, we're sponges, right? And then as we progress into teens age and adulthood, we become styrofoam, and we repel everything because we think we know it all, right?
Yeah.
So if we're repelling all that stuff, we're not getting that knowledge and that wisdom,
Totally.
right? Then we're not growing,
Yeah.
and that's the reality of it. Once people could realize that.
And you got into mindsets a little bit. So that goes into, and I like that you said infinite mindset, because that's even beyond, because yes, you have like a fixed mindset, which most people have, and then you have a growth one. So love that you got into infinite. Talk more about that even too.
So, a fixed mindset is basically, we've been doing this forever and this is the way we do it.
Yep.
We can't change. And, so a fixed mindset would be, hey, let's plug in the GPS. Okay, we're all going. We're in a car. Yep. And it's like the GPS turns right, says to turn right. And there's a wall there. Do we crash the wall?
Right. Yeah.
Well,
most people.
that's a fixed mindset, right? You're going to crash the wall.
Do that.
Right?
And just keep going. You're like,
and what's even worse is they crash the wall and they'll blame somebody else. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
that is part of the
Right?
fixed mindset.
The GPS said to turn right.
Yes.
The wall's there. I knew we were going to crash, but I hit the wall anyways.
Yep.
It's not my fault.
No accountability.
It's not my
in a
fault.
fixed mindset.
Somebody else should have told me not to turn right.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's that fixed mindset.
Yep. Totally.
Infinite mindset, growth mindset is it's possible.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Infinite mindset is everything's possible.
Yes.
And let's go get everybody together
Yep.
and let's go do it.
Yep.
Right?
Totally
And
agree.
technology, AI, all these things that are
Yeah.
coming down the pipeline.
Yeah.
People better be ready, because those things are changing the world every day.
Yes.
It'll be so
Every
fast.
day.
I know.
Changing
I know.
it. So it's
I
going to
know.
force all the fixed-minded people to be
to the
infinite
side
minded.
of the road.
out of their comfort zone and start getting over to
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna force change, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
I always go, I love forced change, but forced change creates a lot of confusion.
Well, I mean, COVID was forced change. I mean, that changed so many of everyone's lives. I mean, people started to once they listened and did all of these things, then afterwards they were like, wait, I don't want to do this anymore. And they started to think about what the future could hold, and that they needed to get out of this. And all of a sudden it was breaking free. It's like they had to hit a rock bottom of like not being around people, not being around, just not being able to do the things they used to be able to do.
Yeah.
So sometimes that happens. Sometimes society puts that in front of us for those things to happen.
Yeah, and those things have a major psychological impact on everyone.
Totally.
Right? And that's right now, people are suffering from more anxiety, panic attacks, suicides, all these things because of COVID and the isolation, But most importantly, we were forced to do things that we didn't feel was right. And that's really about it, right? Yeah. So if you have a trauma of abandonment, trauma of, any assaults or bullying or anything, that's triggering to the 10th degree.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then not being able to share that time. I mean, they even closed down, all the deserts and the mountains and the beaches. I mean,
not where we were.
Yeah. I mean,
that was your backyard, though.
We went and did things still because we were like, and we offered people to do it in their space.
Yeah.
Like, come on out, stay in your vehicle if you want to, but keep doing this.
But, that's what saved my life, really, mentally at that time.
Yeah.
I was still able to ride dirt bikes.
Yeah,
So I would go sneak out, and I'm sitting there going on the freeway going, if they pull me over, I'm going to tell them that I'm on my way to the market. Right? I'm on my way to the market. My market's an hour and a half away. Right? Yeah.
And what are you doing with that bike in the back?
Yeah.
Oh, just in case I run out of gas.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We have so many different things to talk about. That was definitely one of them. I think we want to get into just like how being in the automotive industry and our love of automotive, like we want to go down that journey a little bit so that we kind of, like, how do you feel that, you get to share that space now? I mean, to me, like, you said, God put you in this place. Like, we have the path that we're on for a reason, because it's either to strengthen ourselves in a certain way and to bring on more challenges that he knows that you can take on
That's right.
to get to that place, you know, like that's why these things are put in front of us, you know,
Yeah.
so we can overcome them and tackle bigger problems later, you know, and all of those things. So, I mean, you know, what got you started kind of like into SEMA and more into, you know, I don't know. I don't care who you are. You know what dub is. Come on. You know, like, we know all about that, right?
You're picturing it in your mind right now, the font.
Right? Totally.
Three little letters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does that journey look like too?
So my first SEMA show I was actually 18 years old, and I just got kicked out of high school and went to continuation school, and I got a job at a local rim store called Modern Auto, and it's the owner of Giovanna Wheels, now Deco.
Oh, wow.
He was my first boss.
Yeah. Wow.
So I was a delivery driver. I only crashed the van, I think, 2 or 3 times. So yeah. So
love it.
yeah. But one of the things that was
You know I'm a driving instructor.
I
I can help you with that.
and I'm Asian, right? So you know what?
You're also Hungarian.
Yeah.
I'm Hungarian too. So
Awesome.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm Viking. Go
Like,
Vikings.
there you go. Yep.
It explains so much.
So, just going through that, having that job, and then just learning, I was so passionate about cars and all that stuff. And I think it goes back to like my childhood in East LA. There's all
Yeah.
lowriders and stuff like that.
Totally, yeah.
And there were bright colors and stuff. So being that I was legally blind at 11 and my left eye losing my vision in my right,
Yeah.
I think I was attracted to the colors,
Cool.
the
Yeah.
chrome, the oranges,
Yeah.
the
lowriders.
All
and-
the different
totally.
contrast.
But
and-
also
yeah.
too, what was really cool was just the respect that the people had that have really nice cars, and they had
love
really
that.
hot women. So I was like, yo, you know what? I'm gonna get one of those one day. Yeah,
Nice.
yep. So I could get
feel
one.
like
of,
this show
so I
always
could,
gets
so
to that.
I could get one of those too. So, but yeah, it's the truth. That's the fact of the matter,
totally
right?
is.
So
When you're that age, and that's
The
why you get a
only
car.
reason I went out with my husband. He
Yeah.
had 2 super cool cars.
There you go.
Yesterday we celebrated our 38th wedding anniversary. He's had about 40 cool cars. So
awesome. There you go. Congratulations.
yes, thank you very much.
Congrats. So,
Sorry.
So, going back to that. So, going to SEMA, 18 years old, I had a Toyota Celica. I remember driving through the desert, and I'd never really been out of California, I think, at that time.
Yeah.
And I was driving by myself, and I was like, dude, what am I doing? Driving through this desert, by myself at night. Yeah.
The first time you go across that desert.
Yep. And it's like, I'm driving out there, I get there and stuff, and I'm staying at the Excalibur, which I
Yeah.
was like,
That was almost new.
You were a big roller man, is that what you're saying?
No, I was broke, Yeah. It was PhD, right? Poor, hungry, and driven, right? It's totally different, So
I've had that PhD too.
yeah. So
touch
going
that.
there, and they didn't even let me walk in the casino because I was under 21.
Oh, okay.
So I was just like, what the heck? Like, then I hear all the gambling machines, and I end up going to sleep and waking up really early and walking to the show, and I was just like seeing that building and all the people kind of hustling around. I was just like, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I walked in and I was blown away.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that in my whole life.
Right.
Right. I was just like, holy, just overwhelmed, just
Yeah.
super emotional inside, holding it all in. Right. I'm
Yeah,
young,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
18 years old.
Trying to be cool.
Yeah. I mean, I borrowed clothes from my boss so I could look business-like because I didn't have no business attire. Right. So then I'm in there and I'm working the Fittipaldi booth with Emerson Fittipaldi,
Wow.
Christian Fittipaldi.
Awesome.
So that was my first, thing at SEMA, right?
That's rad.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah.
That's a good gig.
So I'm in their booth and I'm just like, this young kid, and it was just like, holy crap. Like, it was unbelievable. And I sat there going, this is what I want to do.
Yep.
Like this is my passion. Right.
Yep.
I mean, everyone knows I love motocross, right? And I race and ride moto.
Yeah.
I raced in the Baja 1000 in a car before. So
Yeah.
I'm an off-road guy.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I've been, going to Glamis
Which
and
not a
Pismo
lot of
and-
people know.
No,
I
Yeah.
love that you're sharing this because not a
Ev-
lot of people know
Everyone's
that.
like, you must race Lamborghinis. I'm like, no, I race moto.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I got nothing against people that race Lambos and stuff. It's
Yeah.
just, when I was young, I was introduced to, I'm going to date myself. So I had an ATC 90, a Honda 90, right? With the balloon
Powder
tires.
puff, I raced
right?
powder
We're all in the
puff.
same club
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So that changed my
At
life.
Indian Dunes.
Yeah.
Did you ever go there?
I did.
Okay,
I
then.
did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's we're going
Yeah.
back.
Going back.
Very
and
back.
Saddleback Park and all the,
Yeah.
That's
but-
where Greg raced too. Yeah.
Yeah. And, so all of the old things and stuff like that, and that, it gave me this freedom because I always felt trapped. And that was
Oh,
the
yeah,
only
right?
thing that made me feel like, wow, I'm in control.
Yeah.
Like, and I could really hurt myself if I, get reckless.
So you got to pay attention.
So it taught me that, but
Right.
it also occupied my mind.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a chance to beat myself
Talking
up during that
about
time.
this.
Yeah.
We were talking about how a moment of when you're driving, you don't, like, all of us, we want to do a lot. We have racing minds, we all have, ADHD and things, and that slows it down.
Yeah.
And we have to pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
Riding motorcycles.
Forces you to focus.
Yeah. And I was like, I really had never heard that before. And I was like, that's why I love to drive so much, I think,
Well, that's why my wife lets me go driving and motocross and all that stuff, because that's my yoga.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
She knows that when I get
We
wound
need our
up,
meditations in different ways, and that's it.
That's part of that process. So she's, so riding my dirt bike is my yoga. She knows it.
Totally.
So if I get wound up, she's like, you need to go riding. You need
You're
to go.
out.
Yeah. And a lot of people think, oh, it's just going to take all day. And it could, but I'm on the phone or conference calls. Thank God for Zoom now, right? And all that stuff. Because I'm like, going to a meeting, getting a couple laps in, going to a meeting, taking off in the desert, going to a meeting.
Isn't this new life great?
I'm off-roading. I'm off-roading with my earpiece, like, wheeling. And it's just like, what? Hey, where are you at? I'm in the office. Well, it's noisy. Yeah. Wait, put your camera on. I'm like, no, it's not working. My camera's broken. It's like, dude, it's an awesome, we live in an awesome time.
I totally agree.
But a lot of people think it takes so long to have those experiences. No, like there's times where I'll go in a truck and just take off down dirt roads and find little, trails and stuff like that. And then get back on the highway.
Totally.
Just take a 30-minute excursion.
Love it.
But that 30-minute excursion is what I need.
Self-care.
It's that outlet.
Big time.
Yeah, it's that outlet that you need to go like, wow, that's
Right.
it got my juices pumping. I
know.
I love
it.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, that's really what it's about.
it is.
Because
Yeah.
you got to break that monotony.
Yeah.
Wah, 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 right? You got to break that. So you have to find what does that for you.
I
And
agree.
I've
It's
tried.
not the same for everyone, but yes.
Skied, snowboarded,
Yep.
jet skied, and
Yep.
everything. Had 20 UTVs in the garage, and this and that quads. But two wheels jumping is my thing. And and I think it comes back to my childhood of feeling trapped and always feeling like just controlled and all these different things in a negative way, that jumping gives me that freedom feeling. And it's like, for that moment, I'm flying, I'm free. And so that's something that I chase constantly. Even when I've, raced UTVs or did the Baja 1000, it's like, that's that feeling. Well, the Baja was super scary, right? I mean,
like, wait a second. Okay.
let me tell you, right? Driving the Baja at night blind, that's a whole nother experience. That's a whole
Oh, yeah,
and I
'cause they
told
could-
them,
You had a co-driver though, right?
yeah, I did, and it was Fred Williams, and we're both publishing guys,
Oh, I love Fred. Yeah.
right?
That's
And at the
awesome.
time, none of us knew, I didn't know how to use the GPS.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the GPS was null and void for us. So we're
And
going, and it was
it'll
before
eat you alive out there.
And this was
It really
before
will.
LED lights too.
Yeah.
So I didn't drive at night ever
Yeah.
on off road.
Yeah.
Right. I just don't because I can't see.
Yeah.
So it's like the lights look like lifesavers. Like it looked like
Yeah.
Han Solo and Luke Skywalker were out there
Nothing
going
else.
like that, and that was it. And I'm like,
great.
I'm like,
This should have been yesterday
Yeah.
for May the 4th.
yeah. And I was just like, the whole time I was thinking, man, I told the guys at BF Goodrich and Wide Open that I can't drive at night. And I got in right after Chris Jacobs. And then
Yeah.
I got in, not even an hour later, it was pitch black. I couldn't even see the floor. It was so dark, I couldn't even see the floor. I couldn't see my feet, So I go through that whole experience. I forgot, I drove 4 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
and I got drenched wet.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it was like,
From sweating?
no, there was water. It rained.
Okay.
So I think
I
it was
mean,
like
you were sweating,
Ojos
though, too,
Negros
the whole
or one of those areas,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're going through.
Yeah,
And
you have
it
to do water
basically
crossings and
it was,
stuff,
But it just rained.
Oh.
And it was
Then
by
it's
the
muddy
It was
and
it was
it's-
by the water, right? By the
Yeah,
beach.
Totally.
It went from really hot and everything to freezing and wet, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm driving the car and I can't see and just have bad vision.
Yeah.
And it was like the front tires are like bam, 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 and it was like explosions.
Right.
It was like an explosion.
like a bad dream.
And I'm going, and I'm trying to go as fast as I can, and I'm scared, right?
Yeah.
I'm just like, scared.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And it's just crazy. I mean, the
Yeah.
Baja, I mean,
Oh, no, it's not.
hats off to Baja racers,
Yeah.
because that is the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. You know, and it's crazy when, the people are telling you before when you get in the car, if you see a lot of people and they're cheering, slow down. And I'm like, why? Because they're setting up a booby trap. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're burying refrigerators, telephone poles, they're moving the markers so you fly off a cliff or crash in. Oh yeah.
Oh, no. Mexico is cool, and then it sucks too,
And then
because of
it's
things
not so
like that.
cool.
It's not.
Oh, my goodness.
And I'm going to be honest, I didn't pre-run. I didn't even know how to start the car when I got there in the morning, because my schedule was so busy. So I flew into San Diego, got in a van, went down to Ensenada, and I was in the race car, and that was it. Like it
and
was
and if it rained, then the course even changed, and there could be washouts. There could be
I had 0 seat time in that car. 0. And at that time, I didn't even own a Razor because they didn't even exist. I know. Right? So I had no seat time on off-road 4-wheel besides a quad.
Yeah.
And there I am in the biggest race ever. Right? I remember getting in the car and the first 5 minutes, one of the factory trucks was flipped over. And it was, one of the trophy trucks. And I was thinking, let me just turn back now.
Yeah. Here's your keys.
Dude, dude, this is crazy. And then I remember going, and then we got a flat tire, right? We got a flat, and it was starting to get dark. So I pull over. By the time I get my seatbelt on, there's all of these people changing the tire already, and we're in the middle of nowhere. And
That's awesome.
I'm thinking we're getting robbed.
Right?
Oh, they're taking the tires.
Straight up. No, they're
They're taking
with
the
guns,
tires.
and they're gonna take us, right?
Oh my goodness.
And then they fixed the tire. Before I could get out, they had the jack going, and they knew exactly where everything was.
Yeah.
And
they
I
were
was just
probably so excited.
like,
You made
"Thank
their
you."
day.
Yeah. And then I ditched the car. I put it in the ditch.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting back going, thank God, this is over.
I know.
Right? This is
But
over.
no, there's more.
No. The desert
showed you out.
warriors were there again to pull us out. Before I could even, I was just like, I gave up at that point. I was like, dude, I looked at Fred and said, dude, I'm done, bro. Who would want to do this? This is too
People
crazy.
choose to do
Had
this
Fred driven
repeatedly.
before then too, or no?
He was a co-pilot, but I don't know. I don't know.
Because he does off-roading too. That's what you know.
But I think it was really we're more publishing guys in a race car.
How
And it was a
Yeah.
crazy experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
It had to be the best story that you wrote.
but our car finished, right? So I could
That's
say
amazing.
yeah, so I could say I raced the Baja 1000 and my car finished, right?
there.
How many people can say that?
Not a
a lot.
No.
right?
Attrition rate is crazy high. So
yeah. So
no,
and part of it was, and Fred knows, I was
Yeah.
driving slow, and I was trying to protect the car. It wasn't that I was afraid. I was trying to protect the car, right? But I remember going around.
like
and
there's not a speed limit.
I remember sliding around these turns with. I mean, you got thousands
Wall
of
to wall people.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, if they knew who was driving this car, they would move the hell out of the way. Because I'm about to take them all out because I don't even know how to drive this car.
And you couldn't see them.
I couldn't see them.
You're like, what are those?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. But it's like, and then after that, I was like, I'm going to ride a motorcycle down there. But just going through that in a
that is
car,
a lot.
hats off to all those racers that do
gosh.
motorcycle stuff, especially the Ironman
Yeah,
guys.
we found a guy on the side of the road that had a concussion. We're like, hey, are you okay? And he was like, huh? We're like, oh,
Yeah.
we were pre-running down there, put his motorcycle in the back. It was by himself.
No, and that's one of those
It's
things.
gnarly.
I always tell myself, "Oh yeah, I could do that." I'm going to do that. Just going down there and riding down there, and it's such a humbling experience. I mean,
Totally.
that terrain would just kick your butt. I have another crazy experience too. I remember the first time I stayed at Mike's Sky Ranch.
Oh, yeah?
and they're like, the lights go out at this time, and I'm
And
like,
it's in the
I'm
middle
like,
of nowhere.
Yeah, no, I'm not tripping. I'll be able to see.
You're in the mountains in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Nowhere. If there's no lights, it's black.
I thought they were just joking. I thought they were teasing me, right? Oh yeah. I'm sitting there not even ready to go to bed, and boom, pitch black. I couldn't see anything.
Literally.
Literally.
Like your hand in front of you, what?
Yeah, I had to like
It's
climb
nuts.
to the bed. I still had my shoes on and everything and just get into bed because I even had contacts in. I couldn't even
Yeah.
take them out.
Yeah.
I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
at all. I was like, just, that was crazy. And it looks like the Bates Motel, right? From a horror film. And you're out there.
You're in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere
And-
and,
and-
you go.
Sounds like
Yeah.
the most fun experience. I'm
Right.
sorry
Well,
I missed
Baja
that,
is
right?
But Mike's Sky Ranch has the best steak, right? Their food there is amazing in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
I'm sitting there going, I hope somebody here that's with us has a gun because I don't have a gun on me. And we're at the Bates Motel and Jason's knocking on the door, right? And I remember there's like a rocking chair outside the door. I'm like, dude, this,
man.
bro, I've seen this before.
Wait, do
you
you
know?
actually like Mexico or no?
I love Mexico. I love Mexico. But
I love hearing these
yeah,
stories though.
I love Mexico. But again, that's, it's until you've experienced it, nobody knows, right? It's
totally
just
agree.
so unique experience,
yes.
such a unique experience.
Yeah.
Racing Baja, going to Mike's Sky Ranch, pre-running down there after. I recommend you pre-run before you race, though. I mean, that's
I do highly recommend that.
yeah.
It's a great idea.
It's a great idea. Yeah. Don't go in there blind, literally blind, and not know where you're going. It's very dangerous.
So boys and girls,
Yes,
note. Take
yes,
note.
yeah. But
Professional.
but you know what though is that's how I went through my life, right?
Yeah.
So I call it the art of driving blind. I go
Is
and
that
excel.
what the book is titled?
It was. It was.
Should be.
It was.
That's a good one.
Look at that. You caught
Will
that.
you be
Was.
Will you be recording that on Audible? I'm a real huge
Yeah.
Audible fan.
Well,
You like him reading it?
oh yes,
so
absolutely.
so let's go back to the book thing. Everybody's like, do
Yes,
a book,
please
do
do.
a
Yeah,
book,
yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff. And this one person said, by me not doing my book, I'm being selfish.
You are.
Isn't
Right?
it?
I
And that
agree.
gives you.
Yeah.
You have a
Yes.
lot of
Yes.
information.
So
Definitely.
so I end up getting a book agent,
Yeah.
signed to Random House,
Awesome.
got a $250,000 advance, did all that
Awesome.
stuff, everything else.
Yeah.
Right. Then 2009 hit. They fired all their staff. They dropped my book. I paid all these writers to write it. My agent, they made their money. I lost $150,000 trying to do a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, you have a few more chapters then,
Yeah.
To add to that book,
Yeah.
huh?
or it could be
Yeah. So
part
so
two.
when people say you should do it, they don't understand the business behind doing a book.
Oh, gosh.
At that level. But this
gosh.
was again, that was whatever 10 years ago.
And that was the
right?
yeah.
Now it's like you don't need that. Go publish it yourself, right? I mean, you don't need that. There's no barriers. So I'm making excuses by not doing it, but I will. And most importantly, my goal in doing so is to help people that are struggling with similar things that I've struggled with or struggle with. And most importantly, let you know that it's okay, right? It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to not be okay.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, that's just the bottom line.
It's just a simple, very important message to share with
Yeah.
everyone. Yeah.
And once I realized that, it actually made me a lot stronger in business.
Yeah.
But most importantly, I connect with people in a human way.
right.
So the CEOs of the major Fortune 500 companies, I have a relationship with them because I'm not going in there guarded.
No.
So think about when you go into a negotiation, if you have your guns out, they're going to pull their guns out.
Right.
So my thing is I throw my guns on the floor and tell them, hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
And when you disarm yourself and they disarm themselves, that's a beautiful moment,
Right.
right?
Right.
And if they don't disarm themselves, get out of that room.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong room.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and that too, totally.
Yeah.
I come with a smile,
Yeah.
and that's something that you we had talked about this before. You can hold your own energy, and everything else that happens, it doesn't have to affect who you are in that moment. A lot of people don't realize that because they allow that to happen to that, which totally sucks, and it can be easy for it to happen, but you can hold your own anywhere.
Yeah.
Like
well, it's
that,
easier
you
to blame
know?
other people, right?
It-
That's what I did my whole life. I blamed everybody. I blamed my dad. I blamed my mom. I blamed my friends. I blamed people. I blamed, my uncles, my aunts. I blamed everybody, my grandparents. I mean, I blamed everybody except for myself. And honestly, I should have been responsible, right? So now I'm just 100% saying, I own it. I own it. And it's funny. I'll talk about my wife. Her first husband was murdered right before I met her. She had a 4-month-old baby. She tried to commit suicide. That's when I met her after that. And we helped each other, get through that. I've been married for 19 years now, and she gave me money to fly to New York to get the first advertisers for Dub because I was broke. right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
She believed in
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's one thing I tell her she really doesn't like, and it's when things go down, I tell her, if that shoe fits, you have to wear it. You know what I'm saying? And that's just the bottom line.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
you
yeah.
make a mistake, you're doing something and you got to own it, right?
Yeah.
So she's listening. If the shoe fits, you have to wear it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
no, and that's
and
part
she's
of
not happy when I tell her that. Trust me.
but most people aren't because they don't want to take, like you said, they want to blame everyone else and stuff. And it's not something that's easy just to be like, I totally effed up, like anyone to admit that. I don't care who you are.
Once you actually do it, it's easy, right? It's actually harder not to.
Yeah.
because it's moving beyond it. Because
Yes.
everything that you hold on to in that moment and moving forward when you don't do it is just it like what we're talking about. It's that foundation. It's just dragging you down. You're not your core. You're not there.
Yeah.
And so once you just get rid of it and it's gone and you just own it, it's so freeing in such a different way. Yeah.
I think it's also kind of like learning the concept or the idea of the word no. And then
Boundaries.
Boundaries
Yeah.
and what fits. And it's like what we were talking about earlier about how off camera, about letting go of distractions. For me, it's letting people into my space where I should be focusing on something else because of my fear of rejection, my fear of abandonment, and just everything. Listen, guys, Myles got deep with me. There were some tears. We had a session before. But and that's why I think it's so interesting, because he was so right on the money with regards to, the trauma and what shame is allowing yourself to. There's so much shame in allowing yourself to be vulnerable, and I think that I'm done with playing the hard way, and I want to do things a little bit. It seems a little easier the way you've just shared with me.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think
I'm tired of fighting.
Well, yeah, I mean, but we're fighting with ourselves, right? And that's the thing.
100%.
And it's all basically in our head.
Yeah.
So
does your book include some of this type of stuff?
well,
or
I mean,
yet?
I've had multiple books. I mean, the one that one that cost me
the newest?
$150,000,
No.
basically, it had some of that stuff in there. I mean, but I think as I've gotten older, right, I've definitely become more vulnerable and want to connect with people in a real significant way, because I'm here to move mountains, right? I want to do significant things in my life. So it's like, yeah, we're an aftermarket automotive. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I just want to help the world be a better place.
Yeah.
And it's one mind at a time.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
we
it.
can just look really cool doing it.
Yeah. No, yeah. Of
and
course.
do really fun stuff while the
yes.
Of course. Yeah.
But
That's the goal.
And then back to the idea, you've opened a whole lot of doors through your experience in the automotive world.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's two industries that I'm really passionate about. It's definitely the automotive and then, education.
Cool.
So, and both of those have very passionate people, but also very connected people.
Yeah.
Politicians, I mean, just,
Sure.
Major celebrities, all that stuff. So the fortunate thing about me is I've done business at a really high level and been able to rub shoulders with some of the biggest and brightest in the world and learn from them.
Yeah.
And get mentored from them. Yeah, like you, like both of you, and that's the bottom line, and that mentorship. So for me, I go out of my way to mentor people constantly.
Well, and I think something that we even touched on, because you mentioned like kids, they need to see that this is cool. Okay. And part of why you do those two industries, how do you get the kids to come in and want to do that? They just hear like, oh, let's help change your mindset. What? Yeah. That's not how you grab someone's attention. Look at this cool car. What? You got my attention. So we're able to use these things. The person you are, you needed to be the person you were to get people's attention, to get where you are.
No,
it's
for sure.
It's not, and it's not to use it to get to your head or anything like that. Maybe it was then, but you got past that and know that you need that. And same thing, we need to make this cool. We need to make our industry cool. We need to make what we're doing cool so that they want to learn education and how we teach it, and we can make both work. Totally. And I think you do a great job at doing that. Yeah.
Thanks. I call it edutainment.
Yes,
Right?
that is a big thing.
Yes.
It's a big thing
That is really
Yeah.
cool.
So it's people go to college or university for the academics and the athletics. You put those together, they're loyal to that brand for the rest of their life.
Right.
That's how I built Dub, was
Yeah.
basically through edutainment.
Yeah.
So we had the celebrities and the cars and the flashiness and all that stuff, but we were educating them on how to customize the car,
Yeah.
what fit on what, how not to get ripped off, how to do it safely, all of those things. So it was an educational platform. And not just education in that way, but education of like, this is a lifestyle, this is a culture, and it's educating corporate America that street life existed. Because before that, it was like,
Exposing them to the trend.
yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, if you had 20-inch rims on your car, you're a street, you're a drug dealer
You're
or
a
whatever.
hood rat.
You're a
Totally.
hood, right?
Right?
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah, yeah.
But if we didn't do that with Dub, would the OEs know to put 20-inch rims on their car with TVs in the headrest? No, right?
they didn't even understand the trends. They don't even know what people want half the time. But yeah.
But we
we're trying to
collaborated
help.
with
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
to shorten that
Yeah,
curve.
totally.
Because we didn't want to go, we're the only ones doing it. And I was like, dude, if they're doing it, we're successful.
Yes.
Because our goal was to change the way
Yes.
people looked at our culture,
Yes.
not to hoard it.
Yes.
Right? So hats off to the OEMs for going. And now, I mean, the cars are amazing.
Hey,
You know?
I'm an off-road girl. I roll 20s.
Yep, there you go.
Listen.
That has never changed. It's always been a thing after that.
Yep.
I just like my 20s.
Yep.
People think, well, you can't off-road. BS.
Well,
I've got them. I go everywhere. You know that.
well, design and is all proportions and contrast, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh
if
my
you,
gosh, we start talking about design too. We haven't
Yeah.
even hit
So
any
yeah.
of that.
So if
Oh
you
my
like the proportion
gosh,
and
I
contrast,
know.
then it evokes emotion, right?
Totally.
And car culture is about evoking emotion.
Yep.
That's all it is. It's like I look at a car as like it's a blank canvas, right?
Yep.
Let me make my Picasso.
I got like chills right now because this like design is my this
There
is
it is.
it.
Right?
It is.
And that's what
yeah.
it's about. It's about expression, being able to do things. It's funny when I'm designing products that are sold, I have to do what people want. When I'm designing products that are for me, I could do whatever I want, right? I'm not sitting there trying to sell it. And that's really the definer. And it's tough because if I just did things that I want, nobody might buy it, right? Honestly, because the market shifts in different ways and you got to,
yeah.
it's like a wave,
Yeah,
right?
it is,
And it's one of those things. It's like a wave. You could either be there and be in the meat of it and ride it in or get smashed by it, right? It's all timing. So when I see that timing in the market, I'm like, I'm surfing. You know what I'm saying? I'm out there. And, it's funny. Like I remember talking with, like the Tony Hawks of the world and all these action, sports guys and, basketball players and even NASCAR guys. And I'm like, what's the legacy beyond this, right? Is it building brands? Is it doing that? Like what is it, And I remember telling a lot of these guys, hey, if you're racing and this company's paying you all that money to promote you and they're making flyers or running commercials, put your own logo on there.
Yeah.
Right? Let them promote
That
you.
moment,
Let
yeah.
them do all these things,
Yeah.
right? That way they're building equity in your brand.
Yeah.
And then when they drop you because you're too old, you could go and
People
compete
still
against
remember.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you
Be
still
strategic,
have,
right?
Yeah.
But ninja style, right? Not
Yeah.
straight up. And guess who took that to the 10th degree? The legendary Ken Block, right?
Oh.
And I'm not taking credit. Ken's way more genius
Yeah.
and such, badass. Rest in peace, Ken.
Yeah.
But he took that to the 10th degree,
Yep.
right? With DC, with
Yep.
Hoonigan, with all
Yep.
the stuff that he did. And, just the Gymkhana series and everything
Yeah.
else. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just
So
monumental.
and you touched on it. It's a culture. It evokes emotion, like all these little things. What people don't realize, like design is such a big part of something else. Like it's you have a wheel like that a whole culture is built around that. It's a lifestyle. It's something like you said, like it's an extension of their personality and them finding their tribe.
Identify
Yeah,
with that.
it is. And I think all of that is just we're giving them, we're helping them find an outlet of what that
Yeah.
is, and it's so great. And Ken Block did a fantastic job at that too.
He took it to the next level.
100%. Yeah.
And what he did for motorsports,
Yeah.
the amount of money that the motorsports people are making now
Yeah.
because of Ken.
Oh, totally.
You know, he opened that up. I mean,
Yeah.
he
and he wasn't even into racing either.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
well, he
just-
raced rally and stuff, but again, he knew how to parlay media into money.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And that's one of those things. Hats off.
But he's
because,
only raced rally the last less than 15 years.
So Ken
You know what
also
I'm
used to
saying? It
race
wasn't-
moto.
Yes. And,
So I would see him at the track all the
skateboarder,
time.
Little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
He was a motocross guy.
Yeah.
Deep down inside, everybody's a motocross guy. They just don't know it, you know? I'll see you at the track, you know? Like, come on. Come out. I got bikes. I got extra bikes, extra gear. Come on. Like, let's go. You know? Yeah. And by the way, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Still have some gear. I could
Totally, I know.
could do it.
Huh? I do love motorcycles. I don't do dirt bikes as much. I do more street and stuff. But I mean,
we need to get you out
whatever.
on the dirt.
Oh yeah, I mean, I have a dirt bike too. My sister and I share it, but we have a dirt bike.
Okay.
I also have like a dual sport Harley.
Nice.
Yeah, street legal dual sport Harley.
Rad.
Custom. Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, I mean, you know, I love two wheel. I
Yeah.
love I love
do too.
anything with wheels on it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And you know,
we feel you
yeah,
there.
you know,
That's
and
exactly why we're here.
and you know, looking at like the different, you know, what, you know, proposed threats of the industry and stuff like that. You know, people are like, it's electrification, it's hydrogen, it's this and that. That's not the threat. The threat is actually legislation. That's the real threat for our industry, you know,
It
right?
is.
I mean,
Yes.
you know, electrification, that's a power plant.
Yep.
And guess what? We could hop that up, right? We could do things with it. We can make it look cool. We could customize it, right? Hydrogen, the same thing. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it has 1, 2 wheels, flies, whatever. We could customize it, right? And that's what we want to do. But the legislation coming down the pipeline is basically saying you don't have the right to fix things.
And it's the people who are in legislation doing
and
that.
you can't customize cars. You can't fix things. So, you know, it's kind of like if Apple's saying you can't fix a phone, so no one could fix a phone. And then Tesla and all these car companies are saying, look, you can't fix a car because you're not trained and it's dangerous and all that stuff. They have some valid points, but they can't stop us from being creative and expressing ourselves, right? And that's something that, you know, for me, the industry needs to get together. You know, it's because I see all these factions. It's like, oh, truck, off-road, hot rod, you know, electric, this, that, you know, hydrogen, whatever, right? Overlanding. If everyone doesn't get together, that law is going to eradicate this industry.
Totally
Right?
agree. Yeah.
So
It's really one umbrella.
yeah, and it's not even the organizations like, you know, SEMA or whatever it is, right? It's all the people.
Yes.
You know, there's
Yes.
probably, you know, whatever, 50 million people out there that love cars.
Yeah, they love doing
Right?
all the things.
You hear
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Right?
50
If all
million,
50
at
million
least, yeah.
people that love
Yeah.
cars stood up,
Yeah.
then
Together. Yeah.
regardless of what type of car, whatever, you know, you like audio, you don't like audio, whatever, right? If you love car culture and customization or whatever, motorcycle culture, whatever, stand up, right?
Yeah.
Join us and stand up so we can make sure that we could do those things in the future.
Yes.
Because without that, guess what? It's looking bleak, right? But I know that, you know, there's power in numbers.
100%.
There's power in numbers. Let's go to Washington, D.C., and let's throw a big car and coffee right there on the lawn.
I'm
right?
there with you.
Right? I mean,
That's
that's
the invitation,
right?
you guys.
That's it.
right there.
This is
There's
happening.
an invitation. This is how it happens.
And if it's not official,
Whatever you have, bring it.
and if it's
Yeah.
not official, I'm not inviting you. Okay? No, just yeah, little disclaimer, right? It's not my event. I'm not inviting you. Okay? Right? But if a flash
Just an
mob just happens to
invitation
show
to
up,
participate.
right? Yeah, I'm not okay. I don't condone this. I don't, right?
Let me list out all the little.
yeah. But I will be the
disclaimers will
last
be in
car
the
there,
comments
right? I'm gonna
section.
follow. I'm gonna make sure it right.
Tail
It's like
gunner.
a wolf, you know.
Yeah.
The strongest wolf is usually in the back, so I'm gonna take that mentality. I'm gonna be the last car in there. I'm gonna wave the flag for the industry, right? But most importantly, I'm gonna go in there and talk to the legislators that I know and say, look, you know what? There has to be some opportunity. You can't go and eradicate this whole industry because you're trying to do certain things, right?
You're trying to have control.
Well, I mean, they
Exactly.
always have control. I mean, let's you know, let's be totally
trying
honest
part.
with that. You know, so what we need to do is give them just a little less control, right? Because they're
Share-
gonna have control.
Share the
Give us
control.
less control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
share the
I don't even want to
control.
share the control.
And it's
just
like
give
anything.
us less control.
Yeah,
you know,
and
give them less.
You know, to make a voice, you need a lot of let's make a big stance, and
Absolutely.
and be loud about it and be in front of people, and that's the way people start to recognize that, and that's why everyone needs to get together.
Yeah, I
and-
mean, I have huge celebrities ready to
Yeah.
roll, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows I've worked with all the biggest
Yeah.
celebrities in the world, right? I have A-list celebrities, and a huge list of people that said, I'm a car person and I would fight for that, right? And that's what we need. We need celebrity. We need legislators. We need all the people. And that's the appetite for success, right? And that's it, But right now, everyone's like, oh, it's a threat, but we're not willing to do anything because it hasn't shut my doors yet. Well, guess what? Guess what, people? You got to get it before it gets to your doorstep,
You have to
right?
get ahead of it.
You got to get ahead of it.
Exactly.
And
Like
and
shooting
It's
the
like-
elephant
It's
in
like
the...
knowing that there's a cliff ahead, and you're like, well, I'm just gonna go until I get there.
yeah.
What?
And
What?
So
No, what?
I want a seat at the
Let's
table,
Figure it
right?
out now. How to? Yeah.
With everybody while they're making the laws, right? When they're
Yes.
talking about it prior to it coming down. Because after the fact, what can you do?
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
It's impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things where I'm super passionate about that. Look
Sure.
at off-roading. I grew up in the deserts out here, right? Going to Pismo and going to
Yeah.
Glamis and, Acatilla,
Yep.
all these areas, right?
Yeah.
And riding
Yeah.
and off-roading and doing all that stuff, right? There's a threat to that.
Oh, half of them are
Oh,
gone. I mean,
yeah.
no,
Yeah.
totally.
Pismo has been under threat, every year for the last 25
No,
years.
of course, yeah. But the off-road community is strong, and,
Yeah.
and it's fighting for the rights and everything else.
Yes.
But what if you could get the hot rodders and everyone to join that fight too, and then get the off-roaders to join the hot rod fight or the racing fight? That's now you have everyone fighting for the right. For us, right?
Yeah.
As
If
car
we all
people.
like doing what we're doing.
It's
We
all the
want
s- it's
all
all
of
the
us
s-
to keep doing it.
It's all
we
the
don't
same
want to.
thing.
I totally agree.
And that's one of those things. It's like when there was a ban on snowboarding, back in the day. Oh, you don't remember that?
I'm like,
We were
what?
like,
There's a ban?
We don't remember this.
I missed that.
I'm dating
Was
myself.
it the skiers who caused that?
It was the ski resorts that actually banned snowboarding.
Oh.
Right? And Burton and all these politicians and all these people got together and they showed that snowboarding would actually increase the ski revenue and the business and grow the sport. And they convinced them. So then they opened it up from being illegal. And look
So-
at it now.
It might be similar to the conversation that we had before because they probably felt threatened at first. They felt threatened by these new people coming in and this new sport that like, oh, skiing, that's what we've always done. Why do we need to do this? But it can help each other.
Well, let's go back to my first dub experience at Sema, right? So we didn't have money. We couldn't buy a booth. We were launching a magazine with celebrities and everybody thought, basically even my own dad told me, you're crazy. It's not going to work, right? So no one believed in it. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to go to Sema and across the street, I'm going to go rent the Beach, which was a nightclub because I'm a nightclub promoter.
I went
right?
there.
And I'm going to throw massive parties.
Yeah.
But not only am I going to throw parties, I'm going to wrap that parking structure with huge logos and banners.
Yeah.
Right? I think we're the first outdoor signage at Sema,
Yeah.
but we're across the street.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then we suitcase the show, right?
Yeah.
Sema, I'm sorry, but we were proud of that at the time, right? We were guerrilla marketers, We showed up with wrap vehicles and signage out there and,
Yeah.
just 20 deep. Like, we were from the fashion, music, and all these other industries that were a lot more progressive in street culture.
Yeah.
So we're guerrilla marketers. So we guerrilla marketed that show. And they were trying to throw us out and this and that. And it got really tense. And then as it progressed, I was just like, dude, but the bottom line is going back to the thing. They were afraid of us until they realized that, oh, we're car people. Oh, Myles actually cares about the industry. Oh, right. And then they came to us and said, why don't you move your party and everything to the SEMA show?
Yeah, to the parking
Right.
lot out
And
there,
then we did.
Yeah.
I think we were the first outside vendor.
I remember.
right?
Yeah, totally.
And they were like, oh, we'll let you go outside. Like it was like a punishment. Right.
Right? And you're like,
and I,
Like, yes.
cool. I'll show you what I can do with
well,
this.
let me tell you about being outside. Outside's open to the public, right?
You get
and
more people.
outside, where we were on the curb,
Yeah.
Everyone had to walk through our display to get in the building.
Totally.
So we had the
right.
best booth of the
Right?
show. They didn't
Right?
realize that,
Right.
right? They thought they were
thought it was a
punishing us.
punishment,
Yeah.
yeah.
They're like, put those guys outside. I'm like, cool. We're outside and we're killing it, right? And that's been our
Because the
relationship.
music was nice and loud.
But I think
Everything.
that's like with
People were really
anything. I mean,
friendly.
you're just that person. You're like, I'm going to make this work and I'm going to make it way freaking better than you even
gonna
realize.
make
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
put us wherever you want. I mean, and with SEMA, they've put us at different places. I mean, they put us at the West Hall last year, this and this. So we're the company where it's like, hey, we need help. We're gonna move you here. Go for it. We pay. It's not like they're doing it and saying, hey, we're gonna go and do this. Like we're making those sacrifices. When they moved us to the West Hall, my partners were fighting with me. And I'm like, no, we got to do it. Like, we got to do it. This is bigger than us. This is like, come on. Like, we need to push that envelope to where we're the people that are saying, it's okay. Even though it's a disadvantage, we don't care.
So then you actually, now you volunteer and do things to seem a
No,
little more now. Where did that transition happen?
What's really interesting about like the SEMA volunteering?
Yeah.
So shout out to Wade Kawasaki because he got me into
Him and Rose were
SEMA, right? Rose and Wade, right? They've been mentoring me and my wife since day one, right? So I met Wade on accident. Didn't know Wade at all, right? And we were going to shoot Mike Tyson, and he wanted to buy a Mercedes that was hooked up. And so I'm looking for a Mercedes that hooked up, and a company called Avance had one, and it was under a brand called Auto Couture. So I called them, and I was like, hey, Mike Tyson's looking for S500 Mercedes body kit, all that stuff. And we're going to be shooting him, but he wants to buy the car. I think you guys have one. I hear you guys have one. Yeah. And then the girl's like, oh, let me get this, the owner of the company on the phone. It was Wade.
Nice.
And he's like, what? Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Okay. We'll send the car up to Vegas to shoot. Right. And then, so we're at the office at Dub and we're packing up. We had an expedition that was wrapped at the time and we had like 6 guys jumping in there. Yeah. And then Wade rolled up with the Benz and I'm like, dude, that car's sick, and I didn't really remember kind of what was going on. And then Wade jumps out and he's like, hey, I'm Wade Kawasaki, this and that. I'm like, okay, cool. And he goes, why don't you jump in with me? So I rode in the car up to Vegas to go shoot Mike Tyson with Wade. That's how I met Wade.
Good road trip talking here.
Yeah, that's how I met Wade. And, he's like,
so cool.
And he's like the whole time, you have a lot of great ideas, but you need to focus. I'm like, who are you?
Do you know what I do?
Yeah. But I mean, at the time we
the ego was a little bit bigger than two.
Well, not only that, this was like for the second issue of Dub, right? So this was like early on, and he knew Dub because he was part of SEMA and we were doing all this stuff across the street. Okay. So he was telling me about that. Hey, it might be a good idea to start meeting some of the people at SEMA. Yeah. And I'm like, why? Like, we have the packed 3,000 people at our party every Wednesday.
Did you see my party over there?
Yeah, we have, the signage and all that stuff. Like, hey, we're suitcasing the show. We don't have to buy a booth. And he goes, I think it would help. So he started coordinating meetings like where I would go and meet all of the board of directors, the chairmans, past chairman, the president, Peter McGovray, Chris Kirstings, and, all of these legends and stuff. And once they started talking, they're like, hey, this guy's actually kind of smart and, this and that. And, and
they liked you a little bit.
And he's a car guy, I'm like, yeah, he's passionate. So then we ended up moving our stuff over to SEMA. And let me tell you, a lot of people thought that was a huge mistake. Once we did that, every national media called us. Every auto show called us. Everyone all over the world called us.
That's awesome.
Because we were no longer that young, crazy company that nobody can control.
Yeah, you crossed over to, yeah. That's cool.
So if anybody's listening, it's cool to rage against the machine, but if you know how to work with the machine.
And still be true to who you are as well.
I mean, that was our model, right? So we had toy cars in like Walmart and Target and all that stuff, right? Yeah. Video games in there, all that stuff. And my barometer was, I'm not going to make something that I think is dumbed down for Walmart. I'm going to go and make something that's really dope and put it in Walmart. Cool. And that's why we sold 25 million toys, right? And that's
Cadillac Escalade had one of those. One of my kids gave me. One of my kids gave me one of those.
Well,
to,
the ongoing joke in our office was we sold more Cadillac Escalades than Cadillac.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yes, I owned both.
Yeah.
So I feel like we could talk all day, but
Yes.
I think, maybe I don't know. I mean, we could keep going, but is there anything else that you would really like to share? I mean, I said, Sema, obviously that was, getting into that and stuff, volunteering. I mean, you kind of shared with us, I mean, where your goal and direction is you just want to help people,
Well, that's
in
it.
different
there's
ways.
and
It
a lot of
doesn't-
people
yeah.
think that, volunteering at SEMA, you get paid, right? There's paid.
No.
It's volunteering.
Yeah,
There
but
is
they have
no-
this
it's
misconception.
Yeah, no.
So everyone there that's a volunteer doesn't get paid, and straight up. So just to look back, I was on the show committee with Chuck Blum, which was the president before Chris Kirstings. Wade, when I met him, he goes, "We need to get you on the show committee." So I walked in the show committee meeting, they put me on, and they didn't like me. Because I represented a threat to what they thought was the
Car
the
culture.
show,
Yeah.
right? Car culture.
I know. Yeah.
So it's what's crazy now is I'm good friends with Chuck Blum, but at the time he threw me off the committee, right? Because I was 24 years old.
You're a
and
rebel.
and I didn't even know who, and they were mad because I didn't know who Danny Gans was, and not a lot of people did, but he was entertained of the year at SEMA,
Yeah, I was
right?
like, he was
but,
the comedian guy,
But
I
I'm
think,
like,
or something,
Danny
right?
Gans,
I know,
like that's your
I know.
entertainment, so getting thrown off of that, was really cool. But he came up to me years later. No, it was really, that's like a testament. It's like,
highlight.
right? But at the same time, Chuck Blum came to me and said, everything you said came true. I should have listened to you. And that was like a huge validating moment. And he said, you're doing the right thing.
Awesome.
And for me,
And I think that's just such a great point right there for especially our listeners to realize, keep you have to stay true to your path sometimes, even though you think, oh, okay, everyone's against me. No one knows the cool ideas you have in your head. They don't get it.
If you're trying to do something
you have to know
different,
how
right?
to execute it. No one else does.
no one likes disruptors.
Yeah.
But disruption is the key to evolution, right? But is it evolution or revolution, right? That's the question, right? That's the question, right?
That's it.
And that's really what it's about. I've been volunteering at SEMA for 30 years.
I still don't think you're
think it's
30
about
years
right.
old.
Yeah.
30
me too.
years,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
30, and people are like,
Yeah.
"Wow, you just started." No,
Yeah,
I've been doing
no.
it for 30
Yeah,
years. You
yeah.
know why? Because I care.
Yeah.
And there's such amazing people in this industry.
Yeah.
One thing I love the most about aftermarket automotive and SEMA in general, right? They praise you to be different. And guess what? I'm different.
Love it.
Oh my gosh.
That's it. That's a wrap. Right there.
Perfect.
Myles Kovacs. He's different.
Thank you so
my
much
God, that
for
was
spending the
amazing.
afternoon with
That
us.
was
Awesome.
so fantastic.
Anytime.
There's just-
Anytime.
Yeah. Thank you.
So much to talk about.
Yeah. I feel like, yes, we definitely
not
could in
done.
the future.
We haven't scratched the surface
I
yet. So
know,
yeah.
I
I
know,
love
but I feel like that was such a great introduction and way to go into that. And yes, we look forward to the future of that. So thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was awesome.
Are we supposed to say some other stuff too? I don't know.
I'm Fast Lane Jane.
And I'm Design Muse.
And
you-
this is,
I'm different.
yes.